The village of Brownsville, Iowa, was once located in the northeast corner of Burr Oak Township, a 35 square mile township bordered by Liberty Township to the north, Douglas to the east, Lincoln and Osage on the south, and Osage and Mitchell Townships on the west. Beaver Creek runs through Burr Oak Township and once ran through the village of Brownsville, which was named for founder Alphonso Brown, who purchased the mill site on the Little Cedar in the fall of 1858. There, he erected a sawmill the following spring and later added what was once called a run-of store. A run-of store would basically have been a variety store, the type of place people would have come to get their equipment for their homes, as well as talk, socialize, and find out any news in the territory. In 1861, Barney Kerr opened a store in the village of Brownsville, and A.F. Kerr built a hotel called the Brownsville House, which closed in 1881. A post office was also established in 1857, and in 1881, C.H. Woodridge founded a large blacksmith and repair machine shop. For all intents and purposes, Brownsville should still remain. But there was one thing the village lacked. The railroad passed it by. Here in the Midwest, especially in rural farming communities, the railway could make or break a town. Here in Mitchell County, Osage, Stacyville, St. Ansgar, Riceville were all recipients of a railway line running through them. Those are the towns that flourished. Those are the towns that remain today. Here, in the village of Brownsville, all that remains are these tombstones within the Pioneer Cemetery to mark those brave souls who came out here attempting to formulate a new life for themselves. Burr Oak Township, where the village of Brownsville was once located, is nothing but farmland now. It was named for the grove of 400 acres of Burr Oak timber that once sat there, and was a camping ground for immigrants and teamsters that were passing through. The first frame building was a store erected by Fraser and Steele at Leo in 1856. Leo also had a post office, general store, grocery store, tavern, and saloon, but was only made up of 12 families, and eventually, like the village of Brownsville, its close neighbor, closed and ceased to exist. There was even a school in Burr Oak Township, built near Wayne's Ford in the spring of 1856. And the first Sabbath school in 1860 was at the Brownsville neighborhood known as Amsden House, which was east near the library at Beaver Creek. Brownsville House Hotel had a bar in the basement and a dance hall on the second floor, along with sleeping rooms and parlors. Once a lively place where the stagecoaches passed through, and horse-drawn carriages and sleighs made frequent stops. Now, there is little left of the hotel but its cornerstone and a portion of wall, mostly located beneath the ground. Nearby, in Leo, in Burr Oak Township Section 10, the Little Cedar Blacktop sits on what was once Main Street. Businesses there have all vanished, including the post office named Cardiff and a Free Will Baptist church, which had established a school. The church remains a reminder, though it is now a township hall and only open once or twice a month. The Brownsville Cemetery, also referred to as Pioneer State Park or the Beaver Creek Cemetery, is located on what is now 370th Street and Primrose Avenue. While none are buried in the cemetery any longer, it stands as a reminder overlooking the Beaver Creek of those who came in the hopes of founding new settlements, cities, and active, thriving villages, who later either moved out onto farms or into nearby townships where the trains came through and there was more opportunity for employment and social activities. Mitchell County, which is where Brownsville was once located, started to be populated and settled in 1850. Since then, there have been approximately 50 known communities within the county. A few were no more than post offices in a farmhouse, centrally located to other farms, or non-developed dreams of the pioneers. Plot points on many of the plans and communities bisected and even overlapped with one another, so that names that have been forgotten are by some generations are known by other things to other generations. Transportation, or lack of, was the demise for most of these communities, and only 5 to 10 of them currently survive. Along with Brownsville, communities such as Glendale, Leo, Cardiff, Old Otranto, Dudley, Wapsie, Bartlett Grove, Newburgh, Bridgeport, Morrisville, Wheeler, Penniesville, Bailey, Dixie, David, Holbrook Corner, Nelson, Bucknam, Watertown, Stillwater, and Jenkins Center were once located in Mitchell County and now, on the official register, are counted among the ghost towns. The Pioneer Cemetery, which stands beside Beaver Creek in the remains of Brownsville, is defined by the state of Iowa as a cemetery that has 6 or less burials in the past 50 years. There are 63 such cemeteries in Mitchell County. There are 63 cemeteries in Mitchell County. Of those 63 cemeteries, 39 of those are classified as pioneer status. Almost 62% of all cemeteries in Mitchell County are known as pioneer cemeteries, where none have been buried for several years, if not decades. Currently, there are several projects in the works to document these lost pieces of Mitchell County. Yet in several of these instances, it's proved rather difficult. Either the woods have reclaimed what once was a property line, old buildings lost, the maps uncertain of where exactly they're located, sit nestled out in what is now wildlife preserves or the back of some farmer's field. Now and again, pieces like you'll see in this video of mills, dams, and the remains of once old features can be found if one tromps along through the woods long enough, searching. While the Beaver Creek Cemetery here in Brownsville still stands relatively well preserved, many of the cemeteries within Mitchell County, and thus the old villages and townships they marked, are slowly wasting away. Not by vandals, but by the deer and cattle that end up using these tombstones as scratching posts, or, in some cases, a bedding down ground. Tombstones can become covered in dirt, vegetation, and debris, and oftentimes utterly become lost if they're clumped in small family groups out in the middle of what has now become a farmer's field. Fences, which were once designed to mark where these borders and thus these cemeteries lay, have now fallen apart into rusted strands of barbed wire, oftentimes laying on the ground or simply carried away by winds, rains, and snows. Despite the damage to the cemeteries, the loss of the buildings, and even unreliable maps, there are still those who can trace their family's origins here in Mitchell County back to such villages like Brownsville, where names of pioneers are still recognized in towns today. Of course they would be, as they're the names of many of the residents still here. Thank you very much for taking this journey with us through Brownsville and what remains of what was once a thriving rural community here in north central Iowa. And have a wonderful day. My name is Crystal Birch, and I'd like to thank you very much for joining me.